Well, hi everybody, and welcome to a Monday morning Kings of Anglia podcast. As you can hear already, I'm Mike Bacon, the Grand Porco, la Poncho de la Vasacian, le Puano de la Pork de la Ponce. And yes, I'm back, contract signed, I's dotted, T's crossed. Yes, got Mr. Heath. He's on his allotment this morning. He won't be here this morning. He's planting his carrots and his runner beans. Apparently, he's all gone. He's gone all very sort of green. So he won't be. I'm here taking over this week. I hope you enjoy this. And thank you for everything. Really, well, it's great to be here. What a weekend! What a weekend it was. WWW. Well, that's the week, isn't it? Win, win, win. I was going to say www.ipswichtownagoingup.com. No, that doesn't quite work. Anyway, look, this is great. This is here we are on the Kings of Anglia podcast. So looking forward to chatting to you over the next hour or so. As I say, Mr. Heath can't be here, but Mr. Hutchman, well, he's just finished a European tour of football stadiums. So you'll hear all about that hopefully on Thursday. We're going to look back at Morecambe. Now, where you're at Morecambe, we were at Morecambe. Oh, what a great weekend that was. And I'm joined by two of my... They say, is it quality over quantity? Well, not in this case. No, I'm joined by, firstly and foremost, a man who, well, if you've seen Game Day this week, if you haven't seen Game Day this week, you ought to go and have a look. It's an absolute classic. It's the man. This man, he went to Morecambe, spent more time on the seafront in the amusement arcades than he did at the Mazuma Stadium. Hey, he's come home with 3 cuddly toys, 2 rubber ducks, and a 3-foot plastic Pokemon. Would you believe? All he won at the amusements. It's he had a great time. Check out his Game Day. It's Roscoe Hall. Ross, how are you this fine Monday morning? Well, it's not fine, it's drizzling a little bit, but it's going to dry up a little later. You had a great time at Morecambe, didn't you, Ross? It was like being on holiday.
I'm very well indeed. And breathe, Michael, and breathe. A fantastic intro as ever. But yeah, lovely weekend in Morecambe. And yeah, I have to say, I probably spent more time in the amusements than the Mazuma Stadium because, yeah, probably spent a good hour or two, playing all those games, winning all those toys. Then went to the Mazuma, saw a win. What a great end to the week.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, I mean, your game day this week was exceptional. I must confess, usually I have a little look at it and I think, what the hell is he up to now? But this week I was transfixed almost. Transfixed is a word I'm going to use by the sight of you standing in some amusement thing with balls flying all over you and hoop with the basketball stuff. And it was absolutely wonderful. But more of that later on. And my second king today who joins me. Well, what can I say, folks? When it comes to the Kings of Anglia podcast, he's the chief. He is the chief man. Everything he says, everything he writes, everything he does, everywhere he looks, he's the chief. He's a chief football writer. If he says it, it is said. It's in gold. It's Mr. Stuart, the Dr. Watson, Mr. Stuart Watson. Well, we've had a weekend away together. It's been absolutely delightful. How are you, my friend? I mean, it's great to see another win on the road. You must be delighted. And of course, having spent a weekend with me must have been, well, quite something.
Quite something indeed. For those that have just listened to the Mike Bacon intro there, this is a man that I've just spent a good part of 12 hours in a confined space of a vehicle over the weekend with. You like to talk, don't you, Mike? You dropped me off and you said, I do like to talk, Stu. Yes, Michael, you do. You like to talk. I worry for the people that have this on. Some people listen to podcasts on ×2 speed or ×3 speed to go through them. Those intros would be a whirlwind, let me tell you, if you're listening to those on double speed. Slightly concerned that you said you were transfixed by Ross's Game Day because I watched that in the car while you were driving. So if you were transfixed to it, I'm a bit concerned you didn't have eyes on the road at that time when we were driving back. But good work, Ross. Enjoyed that very much.
Excellent work, Ross. You're absolutely right, Stu Pop. But I was transfixed, and if you noticed, I had one eye on the video and one eye on the road. I can do that. Okay. You see, my eyes can spread both ways, so it's quite a skill. I learned it at school.
Like a chameleon.
Yes, I learned it at school actually when Mr. Jacobs, our maths teacher, was doing stuff on the blackboard, and so a little young lady I used to like was in like year 14, and she used to sort of run past the window. So I used to glance one way and keep an eye on my maths the other way. Very clever skill, Stu. You should have. But anyway, but what a weekend, Stu. I mean, we had a weekend away and we spent we'll talk about the football in a minute because I think people they like to know these little sort of side pits, don't they? Like we got to Morecambe and Stu, tell them about the fish and chips. I mean, the man on the gate told us, didn't he? He told us where we've got to go for a little snack.
He did. He sent us to one particular fish and chip shop what's it called? Atkinson's? And off we
Atkinson.
went. Walked down to the seafront, had that. Very good recommendation. Then we got back to the ground and he said, was it good? He was very insistent that we go to this one place. We're slightly concerned that it might have been his brothers or something, or he was getting a little bit of money on the side. But to be fair, it was a good recommendation. And then you made the mistake of telling him, had a nice little bit of curry sauce with it as well. His face dropped. Looked like you'd just given him a dog poo sandwich. He was not impressed. He told us that was sacrilege. To be having curry sauce with our fish and chips.
He wasn't very impressed, was he, Stu? I mean, I thought I was being sort of like just helpful, really nice, and telling how we'd been, and just chucked in the tub of curry sauce, and with that, his face dropped like a stone, didn't it? And I felt a bit bad, really, Stu, to be perfectly honest. We've been so helpful to pour this all the way there, and then we're going to have curry sauce. But anyway, so we worked down to the front, which of course is where young Roscoe was. Roscoe spent a lot of time down on the front, and he even, which is extraordinary, if you've seen game, he even managed to get an interview with the Eric Morecambe statue, which is, I mean, how many people managed to get that? I mean, it was wonderful. How did that feel, Ross?
Yeah, my people spoke to his people and we got it sorted. He was very bold, as I said, with his prediction for a Morecambe win, but he was nearly right, He was nearly right. Morecambe took the lead in that game. But no, good chap, Eric. Very much before my time. But a bit of comedy gold for you. That was all from here, off the cuff. One take as well. One take we did it. One take, me and Eric. So thanks, Eric, again.
I won't quite go so far as comedy gold, Ross, but I mean, I know what you mean. It was amusing, yes. Anyway, so but of course, Morecambe and Wise, big. They even played "Bring Me Sunshine," of course, at the start before kickoff, which of course most people around me who like sort of in Ross's age were sort of wondering what on earth they're playing this silly tune for. So never heard of it. I had to explain to young Stuart also, the doctor, that this is a Morecambe Wise tune. Did you ever watch much of Morecambe Wise, Stu? I don't suppose you really knew much of Morecambe Wise.
Slightly before my time. I kind of remember it from my childhood, but not quite my era.
No, and you certainly don't, Ross. So you're quite happy you interviewed somebody you didn't even know who he was. Is this what we're getting down to the nitty gritty of this?
No, you've still got to appreciate a legend of British comedy. So I'm ticking it off my list of achievements in my career so far. So yeah,
fantastic. And he probably appreciated a YouTube comedian genius as well, and interviewing him, Ross, which was wonderful. So look, hey, we had a good time at Morecambe, and Ipswich Town fans, you were there again in your over 1,000. That's a long old trip up the Lancashire coast. I mean, Stu, come on, you go home and away everywhere. These Ipswich Town fans, what a top bunch they are, aren't they? Supporting their team. And at the end of the match, what great scenes as the boys went over. We'll talk about match a minute, but just a little bit about the fans, Stu. It's a long trip, and what great support.
It is a long trip. I think we left off. You talked me down to 7 a.m. departure. we did get there a little bit early, but it was a long old journey on Saturday morning. And I think that the team coach, from what I gather, took more than 7 hours on Friday to get up there. So I'm sure a lot of those fans faced similar journeys there and back. Some will have done it there and back on the day. Remarkable support. We've said it so many times. I think more than 1,000 at every away game so far. Correct me if I'm wrong. Huge attendances at Portman Road now. I'm tempted to say build it and they will come, which I guess is true for the home attendances, but that away support has been there through thick and thin, hasn't it? Even when things haven't been going well, Ipswich Town fans, that loyal core, home and away, so loyal, and I'm just delighted for those sort of fans that have been there through thick and thin, and finally getting a season to be excited about now.
And Ross, I mean, it's rather strange because at the end of the match, Stu and myself are often sort of scribbling away or typing away furiously. We don't sort of actually get to see all the excitement of the away end and the players going over, and we sort of glance up and have a quick look, but it's not. I mean, the fans at the end. There's some great scenes again at the end of the game, wasn't there? And suddenly the noise erupted. They've been loud all game, Ipswich fans, but the noise at the end was particularly vocal. They really enjoyed the boys coming over to see them, didn't they?
Yeah, definitely. And there was a moment also, Colin Edwards came over and gave a shirt to a fan. I think someone got hit by a ball in the warm up, and someone of course got a shirt. I think the club wanted to make sure that person who got hit by the ball at least got something, a souvenir to sort of say thanks for being here, and also sorry to hit you in the ball. But like even me, I know a lot of the lot of the people in the crowd who are listeners of the podcast, friends as well, and just seeing their happy faces, give them fist pumps, give them high fives, hugs, and just all great smiles and great. And we finally beat a team we didn't beat last year in Morecambe. So yeah, great scenes, great. The players appreciating it. Kieran McKenna, always doing he's new, really. He's doing a lot of the fist pumps now. Really appreciating the fans, and yeah, it's a long journey. But a lot of Town fans left that Mazuma Stadium very happy indeed.
I think he might have watched you with a few of your little fist pumps, Ross. That you give your old girl a little fight. It's all a bit like, oh, yes, I think it's a little bit like that. I think he must watch this. I'm sure Kieran watches this. And talking about Kieran McKenna, Stu. Well, yes, he does, Stu. Don't laugh. Anyway, Stu, a little bit fun, like a little nice little thing before a match though. We're me, yourself, and young Mr. Phil. I call him young Mr. Phil Ham. He's not quite as young as he used to be. Young Mr. Phil Ham was sitting alongside us in the press box, sort of like a press. Was a strange, really. It was sort of like an eating table, really. Was it a little table in front of us? You had to bend down 3 foot to put your laptop on.
That is a great shout. It's like if you go to your nan's after school and she'd get out those little what they call the little nest of tables that kind of stack underneath each other, and it's just that awkward little bit too low, and you kind of hunched over. My shoulder and back were in bits at the end of that game, weren't they? But a little overflow area at Morecambe. It's kind of a boosted non-league setup, isn't it? Really, there's a club that has come from non-league beginnings. It's like so many of these other grounds that we go to in League One. It's it was nice. It was pleasant. They had a nice atmosphere around the club, bit like Accrington. Music and lively bar area after the game and everything like that. It's that was a nice little setup up there.
And I was just going to say that's where we were. And a little thing about Kieran McKenna, Stu, that again, it's just a little thing that people might, as he came out onto the pitch, just to walk onto the pitch, he glanced across up at us, didn't he? The three of us sort of sitting there looking sort of like a little press rabble, and put his hand up and waved. And I thought that was quite nice, for the Ipswich Town manager to make just a wave to the press, which he didn't have to do, did he?
You would think that's a really small thing, but every time Kieran McKenna wishes us a safe journey home, or just asks us if we're well, or I think there was a moment last season where I think after the final away game he just said, thanks for all your efforts with the travelling this season, and we almost all fainted and dropped down because we're not used to that from Ipswich Town managers. Normally the managers come out. Obviously, stadiums are pretty empty a couple of hours before kickoff when we're in there, and the manager comes out to walk around the pitch. And normally we get the death stare from a manager. I remember being sort of on the end of a few of those from Paul Lambert and Stuart Taylor that would sort of look up at us and mutter to each other. And you felt like you were more likely going to get a different type of hand gesture rather than a friendly hello. So it's just the mark of the man, isn't it? In Kieran McKenna, he's just a very good people person.
Absolutely. Well, look, let's talk about the game a little bit now. Then, I mean, obviously, it was quite funny, Stu. Actually, where we did I did like you caught me on the hop a little bit when we did our sort of reaction piece at the end with a very good opening comment. When you looked at me and just went, "Never in doubt," was it, Mike? That was your opening gambit to me, and I sort of looked, huh? But a strange first half, Stu. They did what they said they were going to do, get in Ipswich's faces a little bit, didn't they, Morecambe?
Yeah, everything that Connor Ripley, their goalkeeper, had said in the build-up about we need to be horrible, nasty, brutal, bottom of the table, everything going against them at the moment. They're a club up for sale, financial difficulties. I think they had 8 senior players out going into this game. Why should they just sort of try and go toe to toe with a club like Ipswich, and that would be football suicide, wouldn't it? So they took the fight to Ipswich in that first half and were very awkward opposition. Kieran McKenna admits that kind of their approach caught them out a little bit. I think they were expecting them to maybe sort of park the bus a bit like Cambridge and go with a low block, but they went with the man-to-man press and they got right in Ipswich Town's faces and never gave them a moment to settle or get their possession game going at all. Every time a loose ball dropped, it was a fight ball. There was 2 men right on top of Ipswich and just couldn't get anything going at all. Ipswich got to half-time. Don't think they'd had a shot on target. Don't think they'd forced a corner. And crucially found themselves 1-0 down because Morecambe managed to nick a goal from a set piece. And we're thinking, oh, okay, this isn't quite the walk in the park that many thought it would be at half-time. Real test of character. And of course, the test of character that they passed with, I wouldn't say quite flying colours, but certainly one they passed in the second half, which is a massive positive.
Yeah, I mean, how are you feeling, Roscoe, down on the touchline there? I mean, obviously you were stuffing your sort of cuddly toys in the back of your rucksack as you were trying to with all the stuff you'd won on the seafront. But no, it was you sort of everyone sort of looking at each other at half time and like sort of a bit of a gulp, wasn't it? This really, I mean, if it had just been 0-0, I suppose it'd have been relatively okay. But Ipswich were 1-0 down. I mean, that was just unheard of for so many weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't a great first half of football. And I was like going, here we go again. Here we go. Town go to Morecambe and they're 1-0 behind. I thought, after a great week we've had, the Portsmouth win, the Cambridge win, and we go to Morecambe and, all those fans in that way. And also I want to say as well, whoever lost the touring cost, I don't know if we won it or they won it, but I looked up and I went, why are the Town players huddling next to me? Because, of course, I want to be where the action is. So I had to, of course, walk. And, of course, I had to walk past Kieran McKenna. The ball was kicked. And I heard Kieran McKenna do a shout. And I was like, oh, God, I need to run quickly. So that was just an annoying part of the game. I had to get up and move. And that's one of the worst things for a photographer or a video man. You need to basically you want to be where the action is. So that was an annoying part of that first half. And but yeah, the first half wasn't great. But the second half, we stepped up a gear and thankfully got the win. But we'll expand more, of course, on the goals and the penalties.
Absolutely. Well, what second half it was, Stu? I mean, and it's rather interesting because, you spoke to Kieran McKenna, I spoke to Lee Evans. There seemed to be, we talked about halftime, what the halftime dressing room might be like. Would there be teacups flying all over the place and boots being thumped into people's heads? And I don't know what else they have in there. Liniment being hurled from one place to another, people's heads being ducked in the toilet. I don't know what was going on in the halftime. But it probably was nothing like that at all, Stu, was it? And that's probably a very big difference with Kieran. You can imagine Kieran McKenna or just walking in the dressing room and just putting his hand, calm, that everybody keep calm. It's probably how it was, Stu.
I don't think he had to say a lot from all accounts. He said it was a player-led discussion, that they were calm, they had belief, they'd worked out what wasn't going right, and they knew that they had time to put it right, and they just stuck to their task. And Kieran McKenna just said, I didn't really have to say a lot. I just had to reiterate what the players themselves had said. And I think that's a really good sign that good sides are self-managed. And there's a lot of experience in that dressing room there now, boosted by Richard Keogh, who we'll talk about in a minute. But there was no... I was trying to think of how that might have been under some previous managers. That Paul Cook, for example, I would imagine is a much more an emotional beast. Maybe I'm doing him a disservice. We don't see behind the scenes, but from what we saw of Paul Cook as the character, you'd imagine there would have been a bit more emotion and getting caught up in it all, and a bit of raving and shouting and everyone sort of talking over each other. But just the way it was described to us, it was just a very calm dressing room. Okay, we're in this position, we know how to get ourselves out of it, and they certainly did that. This wasn't a great performance from Ipswich Town, but for 20 minutes at the start of the second half, they absolutely blitzed Morecambe, and just being very, very good for a 20-minute spell was enough to win this football match. They came bursting out the blocks. Edwards, Morsey drove through the middle. Edwards curled one against the post. Seconds later, Chaplin's cross was headed against the crossbar by a Morecambe defender. And Ipswich just went at them and completely raised the tempo at the start of the second half. Big tactical tweak, I think, before half-time helped change the tide of this game. Carl Edwards had started out on the right, which is where he'd had his impact off the bench with the 2 goals against Cambridge, of course. And he wasn't getting a lot of joy there. I think Morecambe had set up really to kind of mirror Ipswich's formation. It was a back 3 with lopsided wing-backs there. Their left wing-back was tucking right in, and their right wing-back was pushing forwards in the way that Ipswich kind of use Wes Burns normally. And so Edwards didn't really have the space to operate down the right-hand side, but McKenna kind of saw that towards the end of after the Morecambe goal went in, switched Edwards over to the left, brought Jackson out to the right, moved John Jules up front, and all of a sudden, Kyle Edwards started to get a bit of joy, didn't he? And because there was a bit more space to operate in, and again, for the third game in a row, he's had a really big hand in Ipswich turning this game around.
But of course, there's the equaliser, of course, Ross. I mean, the equaliser from the fridge, George Edmondson. I mean, and wow, he took that nicely, didn't he? I mean, that corner's rather interesting. Leif Davis took the corner. I mean, Lee Evans had been taking corners, and then Leif Davis took a corner, and that was lovely sight. Was it sort of like a side foot finish, really, from inside the 6-yard box? But it came from nothing, really. Ipswich had really started that second half well, and they get this corner, and bang, suddenly just happens, and from an unlikely source.
Yeah, I've been thinking, or we've been saying, we've been wanting our centre back scoring goals, and Jordan Emerson steps up and scores, which is good to see. And I think you guys said in your video, or Stu said, especially, Jordan Emerson was saying about wanting to score and improving shooting stats on FIFA, and I'm sure that has improved because getting a goal. But yeah, it's good to see a goal from a set piece because we don't score many of them. But yeah, as you said, unlikely source, and I just love the celebrations because, of course, Emerson went right back, celebrated with the fans, celebrated Richard Keogh, and he went, let's get back into this game, and that's what they did, and they went on to win it in the end. But yeah, good to see good old Fridge, who's in good form at the moment, and also get a goal. Good for him.
First goal from an Ipswich defender since, do you know how far back we're going? It's the first one under McKenna. It's actually the first since George Edmondson back at Plymouth on October 30th. So 44 games later, and an Ipswich defender had scored again in the league. That is, I think Greg Lee got a couple, didn't he, in the trophy? If you want to put him in that defender category, but yeah, certainly the first time an Ipswich centre half has scored since that Plymouth game way back in at the end of October, pre McKenna.
See, look, they get 44 games ago, and more importantly, as you rightly say, Ross, his FIFA stats have probably gone up for goal scoring or shooting or whatever it is, which is, of course, even more important for all of us who play FIFA 23 and have the Fridge in our side. So anyway, but that's that. So that was that. We're back on terms, Stu, and then suddenly now I used in the video I said about a tale of two penalties, of which you had already used. In the video before I said it, and you sort of said to me, I've already said that. And I said, well, I'm saying it again. And you said, but I've already said that. And if you watch back our reaction piece, that's where you sort of said, so you said it first. So yes, you did. And it was a tale of two penalties, Stu.
Yes, it was, Michael. A tale of two penalties. Let's all keep saying it until it's hammered home. A tale of two halves, a tale of two penalties. Yeah, Kyle Edwards wins the first one. As I said, he was getting a lot more joy down that left side, a bit more space to operate in, cuts inside, tripped. Don't think there was any doubt about that one, was there? Connor Chaplin takes it. In our post-match video, I'd only seen it live once, and where we were sat in that overflow area was up the other end towards the Ipswich Town fans, and I didn't get a great view of it. And in that video, I said, not the best penalty, not the worst. It wasn't great. Looking back at it, it wasn't great at all. Was it far too central? Wasn't hit particularly cleanly. And it is at that moment where, Ross has talked about all those feelings of Ipswich Town fans. Oh, wouldn't this be typical Ipswich? We go and win the two big home games, and then wouldn't it be typical Ipswich? All those little nagging doubts that are still not completely blown away in the backs of our minds that, typical Ipswich will go and not do it here. Even after we've got a penalty. And Connor Ripley, the one who's been, was becoming the pantomime villain. Ipswich Town fans had been giving him some real stick in the first half. I think the chant was, "You're just a fat Kasper Schmeichel," or something along those lines. He makes the save, and you think, this is going to be one of those days, isn't it? But it's a different Ipswich Town side now, and they've got a bit more about them, a bit more balance, a bit more calmness, a bit more quality, a bit more depth. All of those different things are going into the melting pot, and they went and got another penalty. Caden Jackson winning it this time, dived in. This one wasn't quite as clear cut to me. I think it probably was a penalty, but it's one probably if it went against you, you might have a few question marks against. But and that's when Lee Evans takes it upon himself. No, I'll take the pressure off you, Connor. Takes the ball and emphatic finish this time.
Good finish that, Ross, wasn't it, from Lee Evans? I really enjoyed that penalty. I said to Stu as we were sitting there, I said, smash it down the middle. He sort of hit it quite hard. He didn't smash it down the middle, that's for sure. He put it in the corner. It's a real firm penalty.
Yeah, never in doubt for me for when Lee Evans step up. I think there's certain players you just look at and go, he's going to score from it. Even Connor Chaplin, to be fair, I'm normally confident with him, at set pieces. But yeah, the penalty for him was not great. But yeah, Lee Evans stepping up. I think I saw some tweets about Tommy Miller, because of course Tommy Miller was the man who, and I think he's at the game for Derby. So if we need someone to take a penalty, Tommy Miller's the man, of course. But no, good to see Lee Evans scoring. And yeah, it's mad to think we had 2 penalties in the same game, because when was the last time we had a penalty? It's been a while, I think. So yeah, to have 2 penalties in a game.
4-0 win at Gillingham in the very early days under McKenna. So again, you're going back, I think that was 36 games prior. So it's a long wait for a defender to score, a long wait for a penalty. It's ironic that it was a week on from Kieran McKenna post Portsmouth getting 2 penalties at Portman Road. He was saying, well, it's been ages since we've had a penalty, and we're certainly due one. And then along come 2 in the space of 7 minutes, certainly inside 10 minutes. But those penalties came through a bit like the sort of Cambridge breakthrough on Tuesday night, where we talked about, okay, a bit of fortune about the way Ipswich scored their first and second goals, but they came as a result of sustained pressure. If you put sustained pressure, you make your own luck, and Ipswich got the penalties and they got the lead, and obviously saw it out from there.
Great celebrations at the end, as you say, Roscoe. On game day, the Blue Army were delighted, weren't they? KOA Blue Army were delighted.
Yeah, they were indeed. It's always good to, definitely Northern away trips. Obviously, good old John Watson, King of the North, and all that. He's always good fun to chat to after a win. Even after a defeat, he's still happy. He tries to find the positive and stuff. But no, a big shout out to everyone who got involved in game there. A few Davidtons. A shout out to Liam and Paul, who were my companions to Morecambe this weekend. But yeah, a lot of happy faces leaving Morecambe, because, as we said, it's a long trip, and to leave there with a defeat or a draw, it's just not. I wouldn't say it's not worth it, but you're like, oh, why couldn't we leave here without a win? But no, all 3 points, and as we said, WWW, Ipswich Town having a fantastic week.
It's good to tick off some of these long ones early on. McKenna again made this point in the build up to this one, that especially going to a ground like Morecambe, you want to go there when the pitch is still in good condition, and the pitch looked really good actually, in stark contrast to what it was like when we went there last back in February, when it was gone through the rigors of winter and was cutting up quite badly. And Ipswich have got a lot of this travel and mileage out the way early on as well. Now we've done Plymouth, we've done Accrington, we've done Morecambe. Feels like we've done quite a few of the miles on the road now, and it's only really Exeter. Well, it's a midweek trip to Port Vale and a Saturday game at Exeter this side of Christmas, and then some of the real long ones left to go are sort of later in the season now. So sort of when we're in the depths of winter and the pitches are getting heavier and injuries are starting to bite Ipswich, if you can take some of that travel away from it, I think that will work out quite nicely for Ipswich.
Been quite a week then, boys. If we, sitting here this time last Friday, or whenever, talking ahead of the Portsmouth game, and suddenly we've been sitting here sort of like however many days on, it's gone win. A terrific week. I just think I personally think the 3 wins have been so different as well, in different circumstance. Ross, Portsmouth, Cambridge, Morecambe, all in different ways. To finish this week with 9 points, with a week with 9 points. Start to feel it now, Ross, a little bit.
Yeah, we said last week on the last podcast that it's something special is brewing. And even before that, I felt like anyway with Kieran McKenna at the helm. And yeah, as you said, we're ticking so many boxes, beating a better side, beating a team that were parking the bus, and then beating a team we didn't beat last year, who was a very cagey affair. This team can show that they can win any sort of game, and that is very good to see. And I said earlier, even at the beginning of the season, I went with my heart this year, second, top 2, happy days, and I think it could happen this year if we continue going the way we're going. points per game and all that sort of stuff. This could be the year, ladies and gentlemen. But we can sort of say, oh, let's not get too carried away. But come on,
Yes,
why not? Because yeah, it's just so good at the moment. It's so positive. I just love it at the moment.
Well, I get a bit confused because in my columns that I write, one minute I'm getting all excited about winning everything. Next week, I'm trying to tell everyone to keep the feet on the ground, as the doctor pointed out to me last week via a WhatsApp text, which was very kind of him. And I did refer, thank you very much to you. 1 week I'd written that we've got to all get excited. And then I get too excited, you see. So then I have to turn around and say everyone's got to keep calm. So I sort of contradict myself all the time, but I am excited, really, Stu, as you can probably tell, and so are you, Stuart. Even under that sort of tough journalistic exterior, even the doctor's getting a little bit sort of, this could be quite interesting.
Of course. We've waited a long time, haven't we, for a season like this, where every game feels like it means something, where every home match feels like a big occasion. So enjoy it. And I wrote a comment piece a long time ago, I think, talking about when managers always talk about staying grounded. That's the job of the manager and internally for everyone to stay grounded. And there is no doubt that McKenna and co will be doing that, and they'll be take the next game mantra and all of that. That's fine. It's not the job of the fans to stay grounded. It's the job of the fans to get excited and get carried away, because otherwise, what's the point? You're a football fan to get swept along in it all, and that, don't feel guilty for kind of thinking, oh, I mustn't get carried away. You get carried away, enjoy it. It's not gonna affect the team. It's not gonna suddenly stop them. It's not gonna make the team more arrogant or less grounded for you being excited and believing it can happen. In actual fact, I think when people come to the ground believing in the team, that translates to them, that they feel that sort of belief and confidence that the crowd believe that they can find their way out of games. So, out of sticky situations in games. So, as you say, it's a massive week, because successful teams need to find different ways of winning football matches. And there's been 3 very different styles of football match. And, how every game we keep saying that's a game Ipswich wouldn't have won last season. And week by week, they just keep showing progress, don't they? So, quarter of the way into the season now, 30 points on the board. I've lost track of what it is like for like on fixtures last season. 20 something points up on what they did in the like for like fixtures. So it's all going very nicely, isn't it? Very nicely indeed.
Absolutely, Stu. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right, especially about the fans getting excited. It's an absolutely spot on comment. Why not? That's what they pay the money for. They're not here to be sort of too objective over it all the time. Now, sadly, on Saturday, the news came through, which rather dampened the celebrations at Morecambe, but the passing of John Duncan, of course, the former Ipswich Town manager back in the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, I'm probably one of out of us 3, I'm the only one who saw part of his teams and his teams take shape at Portman Road. He didn't always have the success that and that he really deserved, perhaps, John. He was a lovely guy, played as well for Spurs, of course, a very good footballer and very good golfer as well. I don't know if people know he's a good golfer, but at Ipswich Town, he got, I believe, just out of the playoffs on 3 occasions in these 3 seasons at Ipswich Town. But very sad news. No one ever, part of Ipswich Town family, and will always be so in Ipswich Town. Ipswich Town haven't had many managers over the years. They've had a few in the recent times, but over the years they haven't. So very sad to hear about John Duncan, and we will pass on our sadness to his family. He died, I think he's 73 years old, Stu. I don't know if you had any more to that.
No, as I say, it's sort of a little bit before my time of kind of keeping an eye on Ipswich, but he took over from Bobby Ferguson, did he? So he was sort of two down the track from Bobby Robson, and Ipswich Town was I imagine was a very different football club once that sort of great team kind of got broken up a little bit, and maybe a little bit of a poison chalice at that stage. The expectations around that football club would have been sky high, and I know people talk about that not being the best era for Ipswich Town and the style of football and whatnot, but what is clear from all of the comments and quotes and surrounding John Duncan is what a well-liked man he was. People like Sir Alex Ferguson and Sean Dyche and others glowing references and comments about him following that sad news at the weekend.
Absolutely right, Stu. There wasn't was the greatest time in Ipswich Town's history. John was manager of, but he was our manager. And as we said, we haven't had many managers in this football club, which we're very grateful of, because everyone has been a top person who's given their all. So very sad to hear that. So that rather dampened things on Saturday. But never mind. Anyway, but moving back to the weekend, let's a little bit at League One in general, Stu. Now, the Plymouth. Now, Plymouth keep winning, which rather annoys me, because I've got my friend who lives in Plymouth, and they're the Janner boys, aren't they? Got a Janner song, and he keeps singing this Janner boys song to me down the microphone sometimes. It rather annoys me intensely. But fair play to Plymouth, they keep going, don't they? And Sheffield Wednesday won. Portsmouth only drew, though, and Barnsley surprisingly lost. Now, I've given you about 5 matches there, all at once, Stu, for you to sort of sum up. But no, what are your thoughts of what's going on around us?
Yeah, Janners. That's a reference to someone who comes from Devon is a Janner. Yeah. They sung that with gusto down there. That was a really good atmosphere.
Yeah.
Down at Home Park, and they've, out of everyone Ipswich have faced so far, they've been by far and away the best team. Obviously, the only team to have beaten Ipswich. A game that could have gone either way, of course, but they look a decent team, them, and I think they might just stick about. A lot of people were wondering whether, their team might break up. Kamara, of course, was transfer listed. Eventually, has gone to Ipswich, and you was wondering if one or two others might leave and they might run out of steam after kind of stumbling at the final hurdle last season. But they're looking good, Plymouth. There's always one or two surprise results in this division, and yeah, as you mentioned, a couple more at the weekend. Exeter, just lost their manager, go and win at Barnsley. Port Vale win at Derby.
Yeah.
So
I think absolutely. That to me was they were the two big ones, really. Port Vale winning at Derby, Exeter winning at Barnsley. Barnsley had been on a great run. Never realised how good a run they've been. You don't suddenly realise these things, do you, Roscoe? You suddenly look at the League One table and suddenly Barnsley were, I think, they were 5th, before the start. And of course, they drew with us, and Pompey drew as well, dropped points at home as well, Ross.
Yeah, which is good for us. Fleetwood as well. Fleetwood have actually surprised me this year. Scott Brown, their manager, the Celtic legend, and his first management job, and they're like in mid-table at the moment, doing okay. But yeah, I put Plymouth as dark horses last year, and they continue that theme. A lot of people think they got a lot of loan players. I didn't realise that actually. I should have looked into that when we actually played them. I'm sure I did. But they've got like 5 or 6 loan players, so there'll be some question marks on them. I want to mention Connor Wickham scoring for Forest Green as well. He signed there. I think a lot of people were surprised that he dropped down to League One, signing for Forest Green. I know he was at MK Dons last year, but he's scored a few goals for them now. And my dark horses, Cambridge, this year have had a bit of a blip as of late. They lost against Bristol Rovers. But they're having a blip at the moment, but you never know. They may come back up. But League One is just throwing up so many different surprise results. And as you said, the Exeter win at Barnsley, to lose their manager and to get a win. And also their goal scorer, Stansfield, Jay Stanfield, of course, his father also played for him. Of course, he sadly died, but for him to score his first 2 goals for Exeter, and I think that Exeter, I saw them put a picture of him celebrating doing a knee slide, and they sort of had a picture of his dad like in the background photoshopped, which was a nice little touch. But yeah, big win for Exeter, and I think they'll be fine even without the manager leaving.
Absolutely, just shows, Stu, doesn't it? How this recent run of form Ipswich Town have been on, beating all these sides. There's so many banana skins out there that it's just great that Town have managed to just keep these wins. I think we went through fixture lists sort of roughly on the way home when I was driving home about 100 miles, and I wasn't really. I was only doing 65. And you were just saying, "Hey, look at our fixture list. Look, actually matches we actually won in this season." And it's a pretty impressive list, isn't it?
Yeah, that Connor Wickham goal came in a Forest Green win against Bolton as well, which would go down as another shock result. And I know we talked a lot about this being a division of 2 halves, and I think ultimately when it shakes out, you could pretty much work out who the top 12 and bottom 12 will be, bar two or three. But there's always a banana skin or two along the way. And McKenna spoke last week about, as good as the Portsmouth result had been, that statistically it is what you do consistently against the so-called lesser sides is what makes the difference. Ipswich dropped for all the talk about the not beating the better sides in the division, Ipswich did drop a lot of points against newly promoted sides, against bottom half sides last season. So to hold on at Forest Green, which would have been a result that, when that first goal went in, that would have probably ended up 2-2 last season. This Morecambe game, they probably wouldn't have come back to win. And you can go through a few like that. Easy for me to say. So, they're not to be underestimated, these sort of games, when there's a bit of pressure on and everyone expects you to win. For Ipswich to, I think, especially at the end of what had been a emotionally and physically draining week with a fair bit of travel at the end of it, that was a big result on Saturday, every bit as big as the previous two.
Right. Well, we talked a lot about Morecambe. We spent a long time talking about Morecambe, but we had such a fun time on the coast. And Roscoe's obviously come home with so many cuddly toys and all sorts of different things. He's had a right good time. And we even had a steak, didn't we, Stu, on Saturday night? We had a steak in Wigan. I mean, that's how we lived it up. We went out to Wigan and had a steak. We had a bit of complication with the steak. We won't go into it, Stu. It's a long story. What was medium rare and what's not, and what's well done and good. We had a right. Anyway, you don't want to know all that. But anyhow, but there was, of course, the Millionaire picks. Now, as you know, I'm back here, the Grande Fianas, and yes, here. But obviously, I wasn't here on Friday. I wasn't invited on Friday. The contract hadn't been signed, so I mean, I'm back here now. And so, Millionaire picks. Where are we at now? Who can fill me in out of the doctor or Roscoe? I mean, which one of you knows? None of you. Roscoe, by looking at these eyes already looking up to the ceiling, means he doesn't know. So I'm going to have to go over to the doctor because he obviously knows what's going on with the Millionaire picks. Stu, is there something can you fill me in?
I do. I referred back to this before we came on because I thought you might bring this up. And it's normally a shambles where we all look at each other and shrug our shoulders. And I don't remember. Andy wasn't with us last week. Mark assigned us each £100,000. I don't know whether that was from Andy's pot or not. We might have to ask Andy. I don't know if we were just given a free £100,000, but if it was, we've pissed it up the wall immediately. I'll let Andy decide where, because the pot was big. I don't think he'll miss a couple of £100,000 from his pot. Maybe he'll just say, he'll shrug his shoulders and say, whatever, easy come, easy go. But my bet was £100,000 on Ipswich to have 70% possession or above and 20 shots on or off target or above. Mark gave me 25-1. I wasn't far off that, Ipswich ended on 69% possession, so just off, and 17 shots, so 3 shy there. So I think that was a decent bet, actually.
Do you know what, Mr. Watson? Yeah, do you know what, Mr. Watson? I think that's a damn good attempt. That was 70% and 20 shots, and you're only a little bit off each. And look how much you would have won. £100,000 at 25-1. That's
profit.
2.2. That's profit. Yeah, that is a profit. Absolutely right. That is definitely a profit. So I mean, that's Stu. I'm very impressed with that. Actually, we'll have a little chat off pod about any other little tips you've got for this weekend coming up. Now, any news on Roscoe? Was Roscoe in this?
Ross got a little bit carried away, didn't he? No. Into this one, he had a Freddie Ladapo hat trick.
To start,
Freddie didn't start. And he did come on, so you're not going to get that bet voided either. So that was unfortunate. And you had more than 5 goals. You were expecting a goal fest, which didn't happen either. So Ross's money is gone as well.
What do you got to say to that, Ross? I mean, it's pretty. I would say I use the word eventful with possibly a small E for your weekend. But I mean, what is your excuse for that? Because that's shocking. I mean, giving someone a hat trick who didn't even start, expecting someone to score a hat trick, and then 5 goals. Where were these? What was the score going to be of these 5+ goals?
I think it was like 5-0, 6-0 Town because I wanted a massive win. Make another big statement. But no, the boys let me down. Kieran McKenna and co. letting me down. Losing all that money. Thanks, lads.
Lads were getting applauded off and Ross was just, frothing at the mouth, booing them off. Disgrace.
Yeah.
Absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. Well, Roscoe, yes. Well, that was. I'm not very impressed with that, Ross, to be perfectly honest. 5 goals, a hat trick for someone who doesn't even start. I mean, that's ridiculous. But anyway, well, that's good. So yeah, well, the Hutch man will obviously come back at the end of the week just to discuss this. But I can't imagine if he is listening, which he probably isn't, because he's probably cleaning out his hutch as we speak, because obviously these rabbits will need cleaning out this time of year because it's going into the winter where they need to be bedded down. But anyway, so he'll probably be furious, I should think, when he or he might, as you say, Stu, just shrug his shoulders in the way Andy does and just go, do you know what? I really don't care, because the life is just one big bubble.
Yeah, because this is fictional money, of which I've got loads. So we'll see. We'll see what he says. His mind's on the Milka Cup, I think.
Exactly. Well, look, Roscoe, going back to the football again, and now obviously we're a little bit of background here once more, which I think the Keogh Army like this little bit of background. I think they deserve to know some of these things as well, because I mean, quite honestly, there's a lot goes on at grounds that they don't really know. Anyway, we're sitting halfway through the match. It's about 10 minutes in, and Town are being sort of bombarded by, well, not bombarded, but they're sort of running around being kicked up in the air by Morecambe. Stu says to me, we'll do the video today because Roscoe's got to get going because he's got the women's match tomorrow. Can we hurry up and crack on with it ourselves without him videoing it? He'll put it on later, etc., which is fine. So the reason he had to go early is because he had to go to Oxford. Poor old Roscoe was charging back down the M6 for a quick night's kit and then going off to see Ipswich Ladies play Oxford. A quick roundup of how they got on, Roscoe, please, and about your trip back and your late night and all these excuses you've already made up this morning as to why you were late coming onto the pod.
I was having a wee before we started, so I needed a wee. I didn't want to do a wee, in the middle of the pod, so I made sure I have a wee. Anyway, I was really regretting going to Oxford because they were 1-0 down, and they weren't playing that very good. And I thought, oh God, I've gone all this way, and they're gonna lose. But no, they got a goal back, and it was a very cagey, very good two sides battling out. And I want to give a shout out to some Town fans who went to the game as well. They went to Morecambe and they went to Oxford as well. So big shout out to all those who are regular supporters of both teams. For them to do that, I salute you, because I have to say I was knackered after both those trips. But I salute them. But yeah, a good point against Oxford, who are top of the table. Oxford, just to let everyone else know, they've got an incredible home record. I think they haven't been beaten at home for nearly 3 years. So I think we will go in there hoping we could break that. But we just couldn't find that second goal. But a 1-1, good point on the road. And on to the next one.
So how are the Ipswich women getting on this season for roundup? For where are they in the table, Ross?
So they've had a bad start, but they've been had a good run recently. So they're currently sitting 4th with a game in hand. So that game in hand will come in handy at some point. So yeah, they're doing better than they were, but they haven't had the start they did last year. But 4th in the league at the moment is a good start so far.
Excellent. So there we go then. So well done to the Ipswich. We can get a point there. So anyway, it's not. Yeah, well, they've got a long way to go for this season. So it's a week off this week, Stu, from the football. That is, we've got no midweek game, which is in some ways. I mean, how much is that quite nice? Do you think for the team to get out on the grass all week? I imagine it's been a hectic week, been a hectic period, really, hasn't it? And they've got a few injuries as well, of course, Stu. And in fact, McKenna alluded to it a little bit. Did he about want to strengthen the squad after the game?
Yeah, I'm sure. A team like Morecambe would be getting their tiny violins out when they hear Ipswich talking about having a few players out. I mean, Morecambe only had 5 players on the bench, but Ipswich are down to a few now. Dominic Ball dropped out because he got a gash on his leg playing in the Cambridge game, so he wasn't in the squad. And you think he joins Burgess, Greg Lee, Hadmi. Who else is there? There's a few now, isn't there, that are out through injury. So that squad was basically every senior player that was available. That 18, Cameron Humphreys coming in onto the bench. But look, it's still a strong old 18, isn't it? At the moment, if you can strip away the number of players that Ipswich are without and still be able to name that 18, and in many ways, it might be a bit of a positive because it means that everybody feels involved and there isn't one or two sulky faces around the training ground. Look, I think everyone's really bought into this squad ethic and that everyone's got a role to play. And I think, that horses for courses, and McKenna will pick different players for different games. And the 5 subs rule means that I think everyone feels like they're going to get a chance to shine at some point. But if everyone was fit and Ipswich had 24, 25 players, I don't care who you are, how positive you are. If you're being told you're not on the coach going to an away game, that's very hard to come in and be all bubbly and light and contributing. So maybe in some ways having sort of a few players out at the moment could, in a strange way, be a positive. Of course, they won't want any more, and they'll want a few bodies back soon. It sounds like Kamara and Burgess aren't far away, given what McKenna said last week. But yes, in answer to your question, I think a week off now after last week is a good thing. McKenna said, a couple of days rest and recovery first and foremost, but then we get back on the training pitch, because there's always things to improve, and that is his mantra, that he wants people, whether they're teenagers at the start of their career or whether you're Richard Keogh at 36 years of age, there's always things we can learn and improve, and that is the kind of the culture around this football club, always improving, always getting better, and they'll be looking to do that heading into a home game against Lincoln, part of the Pack Out Portman Road package. Be another big bumper crowd there on Saturday.
Now, you mentioned Richard Keogh there. We haven't really discussed him. We have a quick couple of minutes on Richard Keogh. I use the word grizzled, strong defender. I mean, Richard Keogh looks the part, doesn't he? I mean, this guy's got experience, and I liked him. There was a time a few minutes in the first half where he came across towards the press box area, obviously playing during the game, and he was shouting and he was giving it this, and he was pulling people here, come here, move this. I mean, that's such experience, isn't it, Ross? And he had a great game as well, Keogh. Bear in mind, I don't know, last time he played 90 minutes. Can't remember last time he probably did, but that's that type of character in the side. I don't think I really took it in at the time. It wasn't until after the match you're saying, my gosh, what experienced guy to have on the pitch at this level,
Yeah, unbelievable experience. I think he's got the record of the amount of championship appearances. He's another leader on the pitch. Sam Morsey, he's a big vocal man. He gets stuck in, but Richard Keogh is another man to sort of, for some of the players to lead by example. And he had a fantastic, solid game. I loved the chance as well at the end. He was celebrating the win as well. Got some pictures of him celebrating. But yeah, rock solid performance from him. And I think this was probably the perfect game. I don't know if it was you, Stu, or someone made a comment about, Luke Wolfenden, of course, was benched for this game. But, maybe at home games is more, you want that playing, ball playing centre half for home games. But the Morecambe game, you needed someone like Richard Keogh with that experience. They were going to, bombard us with balls. They're going to go man to man. And he was the perfect man to play that game. And he was solid. At 36 years of age, he was fantastic.
Good, wasn't he, Stu? Enjoyed watching him.
Was very good, yeah. He's what I loved most was the amount of joy he had playing football. This is a 36 years of age, as Ross said, been there, done it, 400 plus championship appearances. What he has been through with what happened with the car crash at Derby and being out for the best part of 2 years injured at his age, and all the legal stuff that went on off the back of that, for him to have shown the desire to come back. And I think he's done some interviews saying that, there were moments of real low moments in him. For him to come back, it just shows you how much he loves the game. And you mentioned Edmondson running off, celebrating the whole length of the pitch. Keogh was there, arm in arm with him, giving it the big one. And at the end of the game, broad smiles, just got that sort of almost childlike joy for the game still at 36 years of age, back at Ipswich, kind of where it all started for him as well. I would say that he's waited a long time to get that league start. I'm sure he got his head around the fact that when he first signed, it was, we need to get you sort of up to speed in terms of the style of play and the shapes and the patterns and all of that sort of stuff. But I bet as the weeks have gone on, as much as he's been willing to be that really good influence and almost extra coach off the pitch, he wants to play. And I think he really enjoyed that performance, just enjoyed competing. He was up against Cole Stockton. He's a real handful up front for Morecambe, who put in a bit of a naughty challenge on Lee Evans towards the end of that game as well, didn't he? Clattered into him, a bit of a forearm smash after the ball had been cleared. And Morecambe, in general, they were pretty good in terms of their aggressiveness, but a couple of times, that one in particular, sort of just overstepped the mark. And Keogh was the sort of experienced, robust centre half that Ipswich needed for that sort of game. So I think that's the first time that Luke Wolfenden has been dropped / rested under McKenna. The only other league game that he hasn't started under McKenna was at Forest Green, where I believe he was ill, so that was enforced. But yeah, George Edmondson. It was George Edmondson that we were saying a couple of weeks ago might be the one that drops out, but Edmondson has really upped his game recently, and I don't think it's any slight on Wolfenden. It was just the type of game that Keogh was probably better suited to.
I think you're absolutely right, Stuart, at 36 to enjoy the game. I mean, we all love football. That's what you've got to love football. If you don't love football, don't go and watch it. Don't go and play it. Don't get involved, whatever. But you've got to love it. And Keogh showed that love. You know, it was his first game for Ipswich Town, first start. And he celebrated as though he'd been here for 10 years, you know, and it's fantastic. It was great to see. A bit like Ronaldo. I don't mention Manchester United. Ronaldo scored yesterday for Manchester United, 38 years old, 700th goal. He just look on his face. He just loves it. And that's what football's all about. Fans get that, you see. Fans notice that sort of thing. And Richard Keogh, congratulations to you. Fantastic. Good full league debut. And great to see you joining the celebrations. Love all that. And and of course, Kieran McKenna. Ross, he always goes to the fans, always get the old, as we said earlier, his old fist pumps going. I mean, the fan, McKenna's at the wheel. I don't know if I could sing it, I suppose. Can I sing it? Or is it best not to? Probably not best to. You could, Ross. You've got a good voice.
No, you're done, Michael. Go ahead, do it.
McKenna's at the wheel. McKenna, I can't remember it. No, I don't know how it starts. What is it? It's not to Dancing Queen by ABBA, is it? I might be able to sort of sing. That's my sort of era, really. It's probably more. No, fantastic stuff. But it's great though, isn't it? Fans love it, Ross. They've got. He really has. The fans have really taken to Kieran McKenna.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when he got first appointed, they were like, who's this guy? But he is just everything. I think even the great content that the club bring out as well. I think they did like a dugout cam, didn't they? And you can see McKenna throughout the game, his reaction and just everything like that. But, you know, we saw him for the Pompey game. I think that was the first time we really saw him really enjoy a win. Of course, I'm sure he enjoys every win, but that was especially one where he's really going for it, the fist pump, really enjoying it. But I do like that he's always over there appreciating the support from the fans, because he knows how much miles they put in. But I'm sure he was probably as happy of that Morecambe win as he was for the Portsmouth win, because he's like, you know, another, you know, team that we need to win to, you know, continue that great run in this division, because big up their banana skins and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think right now Town fans are just loving McKenna and the players doing so well.
Do you know who I love watching on the touchline? Keep an eye on Martin Pert, Kieran's assistant. He's when the second penalty, when Lee Evans was stepping up for that, he just stood hands on head. He lives every single kick. He's very emotional, Martin Pert. I like watching him.
I think I saw him at the end when the minutes were ticking over, going extra time. He was his wrist, his hand was out, wrist. He just couldn't stop pointing his wrist. Obviously, shouting out to the referee every few seconds. You know how long has gone, how long we got to play, But that's great. That's the passion we want. The Ipswich Town fans are passionate. The management team's passionate. The players are passionate. I'm passionate. The doctor's passionate. Roscoe's is passionate. I mean, the way everyone's passionate. We're all passionate, but why not? Hey, these seasons don't come round that often. And trust me, I've been around watching Ipswich Town for many years. Whatever happens at the end of this season, we're going to go with this because it's fantastic and it's ticking over nicely. Yes, I know it's another game next Saturday, which we've got to look forward to. And all these things still change, but not at the moment. They're not changing at the moment. And right, before we leave it, anyway, any more business? Roscoe, have you got any questions you want to ask me or Stu? Is any, you know, make it personal if you like, any personal questions or anything, you know, but how do I sort of keep my hair this colour and stuff like that, anything like that, or not? Nothing?
I think a lot of people want to know this, really. How do you have your steak?
Well, no, this really is a very complicated. It's a complicated answer. I like mine personally. I like mine medium to well done, but the doctor doesn't. Do you, Steve?
No, I wasn't too happy. We both ordered our steaks at the same time, and we wasn't sure whose came out first. And you'd ordered first, so we assumed the first one that came out was yours. You were tucking. You weren't too impressed. It was a bit too on the pink side for you, wasn't it? And then
because you wanted medium rare, didn't you? You wanted medium rare.
Yeah, the correct way to have a steak.
Don't
order a steak if you don't like a steak.
Give me the correct way to have a steak.
I will be backed up by 9 out of 10 listeners here, I'm sure.
Not so sure. Anyway, yeah, carry on, Stu. We had a bit of an issue, didn't we?
That's the issue. And then I had to have your chewy overdone.
We actually swapped. We swapped a bit of the steaks over to each other. It's just I said I'll have yours then, and you'll have mine. It was all a bit sort of comical, really.
What a life we lead, hey? Me and you in a
yes, what a life it was. But we didn't care.
Hotel on the outskirts of Wigan on Saturday night, swapping steaks.
But we didn't care because we'd just beaten Morecambe 2-1, and that was the thing. And Stu was about to start writing his 15 observations, which by the time he was on his 8th Peroni, he only got down to 4. No, I tell a lie. Don't believe that anybody. That's not true at all. No, he had. I think we ended up with 5. Did we, Stu? 5 observations in the end, not 15. But there they go. They were all there. So anyway, look, we've come to the end of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to.
Sponsors, give the sponsors a shout out.
Yeah, I'm about to. Don't worry. Do you think I've forgotten that sort of thing?
Maybe.
Oh yeah, and right, of course. Thanks to Manscaped, our sponsors, for all what they do for us on the podcast and their support, and we do appreciate it. Of course, if you want to trim anything up, wherever you want to trim it, well, wherever you want to trim it, there's so many areas you can go to these days. I don't really want to say more than that. But anyway, Manscaped, our sponsors, check them out when Roscoe puts their logo up here somewhere sometime, which I'm sure he's probably going to do in a minute. But thanks to them, and thanks to you for listening to this on our Kings Anglia podcast. I'm the porker, Michael, the Poncho Delianas, and hopefully I'll be back again one day when I'm invited. Like I say, the contract was a little bit awkward to sign this time, but we've got it sorted, and so that's why I'm back this time. To my good friend, the doctor Watson, has a lovely weekend with, and thank you very much. Any other business, anything you just want to say before we leave?
Absolutely not. No other business.
No other business from the doctor. And Roscoe, are you going to tell us what have you done with the cuddly toys?
I gave them one to Kieran McKenna, one to George Edmondson for his goal, and one to Freddie Dapo because he didn't get a hat trick. So they enjoyed it.
Beautiful. What a way to end the podcast. They're all joining their cuddly toys. We're enjoying a WWW week. Look forward to the Kings of Anglia podcast. We'll be back with you and the Heath Monster later this week. I'm Mike Bacon. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll speak to you soon.